Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Howdy folks, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Robert Duell.
And Jaime and Fuego returning for more Patreon-requested stuff, this time from our longtime supporter, Scuba Steve.
Scuba Steve.
Damn easy, man. Much love to you and all of the constant support over a very lengthy period of time at this particular point.
A long time.
Yes, yes.
A long time.
No, long time. I see where you're going with that. But yeah, so this was one that probably has some timeliness to the current social state of not just this country but the world. We're actually talking about Body Cam, starring Mary J. Blige. Yeah. Did a trailer reaction for this one, and it didn't end up being quite what I was expecting. I feel like the trailer was relatively vague, and especially when they pull back the curtain a little bit and you realize the full extent of what has transpired in this. Now, I watched this a while back on VOD. It's on home release now. It's at Red Boxes and stuff like that. And yeah, so I know it's much fresher in your mind. So as far as overall impressions go, what did you think about this?
Overall impressions, I was very pleasantly surprised with this movie. Like you said, we did a trailer reaction and everything for this, and from my recollection, this movie was nothing like what the trailer was.
It looked pretty ho-hum, for sure.
Yeah, like, honestly, because, like, I remember even asking Fuego and everything, I'm like, wait, Body Cam's a horror movie? I'm like, because I figured...
It gets there.
Yeah, because, like, from watching the trailer and everything, it looked like something basically for, like, infotainment or something like that. And I was like, all right. Once you get into it, then you realize that, yeah, this is definitely a horror movie. And I was pleasantly surprised with this movie. Mary J. did great. Between all the cast and everything, even the gore that we got, awesome movie.
Yeah. Timely in this regard,
and especially with that. That was a very, very sensitive subject that they were working with, and
as it should be. And even when they were initially working on it, it wasn't as sensitive of a subject as it became over the course of this year. Even when we did the initial trailer reaction, I think we were all still in person before we had to, go our separate ways for a little while, and we were Zooming and Skyping and doing all of these different things. So this was the right film, right time sort of situation, I suppose, as things kind of magnified. And as far as overall impressions for me, man, I was surprised at just so much of the emotional depth that they actually brought with, like, without specifying characters, like loss of child and just when we do get a supernatural force, how it's implemented. And there's one scene in particular in, like, a convenience store kind of bodega, which is really awesome. And the emotional resonance as we get a little more clarity as to why there's that sort of vengeance being extracted. Yeah, this movie impressed me, Scuba Steve. And I'm glad that I almost, once it hopefully sees a streaming service, I would probably revisit it just to even take in a little bit more of the resonance. So story, I will let you hit story just to give a little more context.
Story real quick. So basically, it follows Mary J. Blige's character after finding dash cam footage of an incident that happened with a police officer that has, at the moment, went missing, and then he was later found dead. And is basically trying to figure out who the lady was that he pulled over, what happened, and all the other little ties and stuff that go along with this. Because the nice thing, too, is it had a couple interweaving stories for the overall plot. And it worked very well together. And
if I recall, she's paired up with a younger Rook, so it has that...
Rookie cop,
kind of, but it's a male cop, if I remember as well, right? Yeah. So we do have that counterbalance dynamic, but it's also one that we've seen. We've always seen the hard-edged veteran paired with the Rook, but
the nice thing though, like I liked about with this character is what they did with her back trauma. And everything. So basically,
which we get bits and pieces of.
Yeah, she's coming basically real quick off of like an 8-month leave after an incident with a man in the streets, and she's now just finally getting back to work. She's reassigned with this newer police officer and everything. And one of her former friends / partners and everything, that's who goes missing, and then thus starts the rest of this rabbit hole, basically, that we go down.
Yeah, and there's people doubting her abilities upon return.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it plays a big factor into some of the scrutiny, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and like, but that's really basically the quick of the story, because really, if you go too much into it, you're actually gonna kind of get into the spoiler
we
stuff.
will totally spoil, especially for, you know, when they pull back that proverbial curtain and you realize the full extent of the, you know, vengeance that is going down.
If you're
why there is a horror, why this was marketed to horror people, you have to stick with it, because by like around the late second to the third act, that's where you really
honestly,
really get clarification.
Yes, but also though, even within the first like opening 15. You realize this isn't just a cop thriller.
No,
and
not
everything at all. This is a cop thriller with supernatural aspects.
Supernatural, distinguished flavor.
Yes.
I guess I was saying more so for the explanation once again.
Yes.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
where you realize why this is actually transpiring, and
And again, though, it ties in back to with even the current events of today, with the whole certain corrupt police officers, precincts, and everything like
all
that.
kinds of stuff, man.
All this stuff. So it's like the relevancy of the tone of this movie is really strong, and it's pretty gripping, honestly. There's definitely times where you feel really bad for these characters, and you're just at the same time with certain things you're pretty disgusted on other characters' actions. You're like, how the fuck could you do this, kind of thing. But all in all. Yeah, definitely effective.
Absolutely, and the one thing that I found impressive about this film was the fact that they did not just go after the officers like they easily could have and stuff.
Yeah,
and
once you realize why and everything, like it basically opens up a lot more to what's actually going on.
Yeah, and this is where we'll get a little bit more personal in the fact that my mother spent over 30 years on the Phoenix Police Department, and she did various things. She did 911 call-ins, and also some parking enforcement and things of that nature. She was never a full on-force cop, and yet she heard stories of both good and bad across the board. Here in Phoenix, at least, we have a black woman police chief, and I make that correlation with just the complexity of Mary J. Blige's character, and also with the fact that just having this sort of power to really try to sum it up quickly doesn't ultimately entail corruption, and that's what this film impressed me. But power does have the potential to corrupt,
exactly.
And this film does not shy away from that either.
No.
There are cops that are just as evil as some of the people that conflict goes down with in a few scenes in this that are your perps, so to speak.
Yep. No, and then definitely too, and again, it's that whole thing like we were saying, like the overshadowing of the bad overshadows more of the good that's actually around.
Yeah.
And this definitely kind of shows it shows you that not everyone's bad.
Yeah.
Whether you're a civilian, law enforcement, whatever. It's like there's good and there's bad.
Yeah.
You can't lump everybody in the same page.
Yeah. Nobody is like bad. Nobody's good. Everybody is like different shades of gray. Is the best way that I always like to describe it as. And even characters we're supposed to be sympathetic towards, they're still not perfect necessarily within this film. And it's a very intriguing exploration, and that's why I think it's an important film for this year in particular, and especially with stuff we've seen previously. With some of the themes explored as a white dude here, it's tough for me to really have too much commentary about that aside from just sympathy, care, intrigue, and the fact that more discussion and more films like this that are multifaceted and show those shades of gray as opposed to making it so simple are important. But once we really get into like the effects, which really personify that revelation of what actually happened, which we can't spoil, that's where the film veers into the horror territory you would expect and want from this.
And when it gets there, it
does,
goes.
yes,
and it's fun as hell.
Yeah, and because it's justified in some aspects. I mean, there are some nefarious cops in this that get it, and
they deserve it.
absolutely do they,
Goddamn
man?
Scumpy.
Yeah. I mean, like pulled up into the air and like the tearing and that whole sequence without getting really too much into
and that
it.
was our opening police officer, which kicked off this whole.
But even back to back to that like little halfway bit that I was talking about at the convenience store, where there is another confrontation that goes down where. Boy, am I recalling an innocent bystander that is shot? There was like a hold-up sort of situation.
He is the clerk.
The clerk, okay.
Yeah, it's the clerk and everything. But you realize during that scene the motivation of the entity.
Yes, that
and everything.
And that was what I was referring to.
That was very effective. Yeah, because again, too, it's that at the same time, it's like you're safe, but no one necessarily is safe. Yeah, exactly. One little slip up and you're screwed.
Yeah, and that's where we kind of get a little bit more CGI, but it's still it looks good as far as apparition goes, and this is where this is where I'm getting leery about like saying too much more, because I mean there's only that spot early on that you were mentioning, and then a few things later. Well, about spoiling stuff, Cecil. I mean that's the thing. I mean when we're talking about a few aspects of just where it veers into horror, and we can't really say much about it because it doesn't happen until later on.
The one thing I will definitely say, though, at least, is it wasn't overly done. Like they didn't.
Agreed. It was very grounded in that regard, despite having the supernatural aspect.
Yeah, but even with that, once they show everything, like the CGI is done well. Now. So real quick, we're just gonna jump on the effects and everything. So once we get to actually the horror elements of it. Those effects are very effective.
Indeed.
Like, and with the CGI that we do get, it's there. You can kind of notice it, but it's not so in your face and heavy-handed within the scenes where it takes you completely out.
Yeah, tastefully used for sure.
Yeah, they do definitely utilize the shadows well, especially for our main, if you will.
And then the confrontation that I was mentioning, where power's kind of out, flickering lights and stuff like that.
That ending scene though, like with the ripping and it's like it's like starting a chainsaw.
That's where they went.
That was cool.
Yeah, that's where they went for it for sure.
Yeah, no, that was definitely I think my most favorite scene out of this whole movie.
Damn.
But real quick, like I don't think just quick touch on acting and everything like that. They were solid. There were a couple times though I would say Mary J. Blige she was a little flat. But like I was talking with Fuego off camera, I more chalked it back to the character of what she was playing. So the out of touch with her own emotions, and then basically the outside world, if you will.
Well, yeah, the
kind
fact
of
that
coming
she
back
has
into everything.
Yeah, she has the self-doubt. she has gone through this personal crisis, and she is trying to like still pick up the pieces, even though she knows that she has to return to work and is still going to face these harrowing situations and stuff. And I mean, even dude she's paired up with, and when there are very negative human presences that she has to deal with in certain scenes, I mean, yeah, everybody sold it for me in this, and I have to, at least for final thoughts from me, come back and say that this film was much more just exploredly balanced, maybe in the fact that it wasn't just completely judgmental. It was like there are various facets to people and situations, and colors of skin and law enforcement and all of this different stuff. It's a tough subject for anyone to discuss, regardless of what side of the situation you have been on personally, or know others, or have just read about in the papers and publications and stuff like that. But this film handled it tastefully and in a balanced form that impressed me.
No, that's basically about what I would say on that regard too, and everything. Yeah, the balance of between the context and tones of what we got for our real world scenarios, that not everything bad, not everything's good kind of thing, and then that with the nice little tastefulness of the horror supernatural kind of aspect. Very well done.
Yeah,
very,
it just
very
upped
well
the
done
ante
movie.
and made this movie. I mean, at least for me as a horror fan, it felt like it had more impact and was even better than it could have been.
The tension building and everything for some scenes I thought were really nice.
Yeah.
Because it was there was times it was very quiet, so I found myself turning up the volume, and then when something would happen, it's like, oh god.
Yeah. Well, and it was also a condemnation of the atrocities that caused lives to be lost had so much more impact because a force beyond the grave, could come back to, seek that sort of, recompense and vengeance and stuff. So, yeah. Yeah,
So-
there are righteous ghosts out there, in this regard. So
Yeah, but other than that, I would say very satisfying movie.
Yes,
it was
and-
very pleasant and everything. I'm very glad I was able to watch this.
definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
Scuba Steve, man.
Yes, thank
once
you again, my man.
Thanks for the shout out. I had
Awesome.
seen it before you threw the recommend on, which is why I'm glad that Robert was here to give me some of those reminders and bits and pieces and stuff like that. But it's still one that I raved about to these guys when it first came out, and it's one that I definitely want to revisit and urge all of you to check out.
Most
right?
definitely, yeah. And actually, I probably actually, if I see this around, I'd probably actually pick it up.
Damn right.
I dug, like I said, I dug this movie. I'll definitely revisit it. I would definitely show my friends this and everything. No, just simply because of the simplicity of the message, but also, man, we got some cool kills. Like, we got some cool kills in this movie.
A couple in particular, man.
Yeah,
It did go for it when it chose to, but the tastefulness about not just putting too much in there is what impressed me especially as well.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, gracias once again to Scuba Steve
Yes.
and to all of our patrons.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, man. And
You guys rock.
if you want to be a patron yourself, make sure to, once this gets over on the YouTubies, jump down to the link that we have in the description below. Tell us what to do, review, do commentaries on various other awesome things where you can support the channel.
Hell, there's even a tier we send stuff to you guys.
Boogie Box, bye bye.
Oh, yeah.
Also, make sure to like, share, subscribe here so you can see pretty faces like Roberts and myself. Even I don't have my beard quite at his level yet. I'm trying to
Let
get
it
there.
grow.
Just let it grow, let it grow. I'm not going to do that. But gracias, everybody. I've been Jaime and Fuego.
I'm Robert Duell.
And until next time, Fright fans,
Stay scared.
That's right.